It is
When you
10:01,
go to a restaurant,
and we are in session for this workshop. A little bit of out of order, but for all of us, Judy, would you just do a brief summary of why you went to Chicago?
I was gone, yes. We were in Chicago. I say we because there's a team, and you've all got the news press that will come out tomorrow. And we were told from the beginning, it's an health initiative that has been done. This is the third year. There are 11 national foundations that have, one of the things that I think they're trying to do is show how groups can come together and make things work. So the 11 of them have come together, and they are lots and lots of orchestration goes with this, lots and lots of planning, lots and lots of people involved on the top end. But they have started out with a grant that they were going to give. Groups could apply for it. There were 140 applications at the beginning. It was narrowed down to 40, and we were picked as one of the last 18.
Wow. So how much money is involved?
There's about 250,000 will come. The hospital has pledged some money. The city is going to put some money in. It's going to be it's a great initiative. It will be a health initiative with transportation and food for the Doyle community.
Transportation.
Okay. So Car Connect will be involved in it. Yep. Light on the Hill will be involved. And it is, we have 2.5 years to make all of this work and come together. So at the conference, it was all of the groups across the nation that are part of this. We are the smallest of any that have been picked. Houston has, this is the second year Houston has been picked. Dallas has one, or will be getting, will be part of this. And it's going to be a lot of work, but it's going to be great for the Doyle community. What will happen is health things will be happening there, along with hopefully the transportation and the food, and it can lead lots of places. One of the things that I found that's very interesting. This has been so highly orchestrated. I kept telling Mark I was afraid we might not be able to make this work because of the secrecy and as I said, the high orchestration. But yet, when it comes down to it, it's up to us to make it work. They're not telling us from here on out how to do it, what to do, that kind of thing. So if it succeeds, it's on us, and if it doesn't, it's on us. So, but the hospital's involved. Steve's last name is Poulter, went. Reverend Noah went from the community. Brenda Fudge, and Brenda's really been our catalyst for
the director of New Hope Counseling Center.
New Hope, and the health nurse. She is new to Kerrville, but a delightful young lady. And then Kay Tallyfoos from the board, and I went. And some of them were surprised that there was a council member there that they said they never had a council member that they knew of. So this was but that comment came from some of the larger cities. Houston was particularly one. They just couldn't get over the fact that we had a council person there.
Special.
So, but it was very interesting, lots and lots of information, and it's going to be really fun to see this unfold. So, but a lot of work will come out of it, and part of the city's position is going to be the physical building. That's where we're hopefully will be coming in with money with that, and through EIC.
Got to go through a grant application process with EIC.
So we're starting to work on that tomorrow, and So it wasn't being secretive on purpose, it was being secretive because they told us don't say anything.
Well, I picked up one, I kept thinking.
Well, thanks. It's great. It's great collaboration.
Oh, it
You know, you look at
is.
the people and the organizations involved.
Yes, if you look at the bottom here, the groups that are involved in this, it's fantastic. And as I said, this is their third year. They've learned each year, and they've changed things a little bit each year. But that is an okay thing as part of the process. So, you can start out here and end up here, and that's okay. Because it's an ongoing, they keep talking about going upstream.
Up through. All right. Okay.
So,
Thank you so much.
We need to, great. We need to canvass. Do we need a motion on this resolution?
Yes.
Okay. Would someone make the motion in regard to resolution number 52, 2019?
Yeah, that we accept the canvassing the returns and declaration results for November 5th, 2019 city special election regarding amendments to the city charter resolution number 52-2019.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any clarification about that in terms of, what we've seen in terms of returns? No questions, everything's solid? Okay, all right.
The official results are in.
I'm sorry?
The official results are in.
Yeah, okay, all right, okay. We've had a motion and a second. All in favor of that resolution, raise your hand. Okay, and it passes unanimously. Now let's move to community events, an update from Parks and Recreation.
Yeah, Ashley's gonna take this one, but I appreciate y'all doubling up today so that you don't have to meet again tomorrow, so that we can take care of business all in, at this meeting, at least for the balance of November anyway. So Ashley, take it away.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Thanks for taking the time to receive an update regarding our activities this morning. On the first page of the slide, I'd like to highlight the Kerrville 2050 action items that tie specifically to what we're talking about this morning. There's a strong consensus on free community events, adding Christmas lighting, do more programming at Louise Hayes Park, provide programming during the cooler months. So that's some of the things that we're doing, and that's something that I did want to highlight this morning and tie back to that we did hear so strongly about it in our Kerrville 2050. On this next slide, I just wanted to point out a couple of icons or badges that you will see throughout the presentation. A theme, we have our established year. You'll notice throughout the slides, we've highlighted which events are free and which ones are also new. Now, new is considered new for 2019 or for 2020. One thing I would like to point out, we are offering 17 community events or special events. The series don't itemize each one, so Movies in the Park, we count that as one event, and 65% of what we do is free to the community. And that's a lot. Okay. Our first event we're going to talk about is our Daddy-Daughter Dance. This is one of our most successful events. It began in 2009. We started at the Diederich Center with about 220 participants, and in 2018, we grew and we moved it to the Hill Country Event Center to be able to offer a larger venue for the participants. And that grew, and we have sold out every year. Tickets are $55 per couple, and this event does have a ticket price, and it is based on kind of a revenue neutral as we try to cover our expenses with the event. We do offer discounts for families with multiple daughters. New this year, we're offering some promotional days at Kerrville Shriner Park, not only for our campers, but for the community as well. I've heard from a lot of our residents that, hey, I didn't even know that was a city park. I thought it was a state park, or I didn't know it was there, or whatever the reason is. We're trying to create awareness for the park and to get people out there and enjoy it and see what we have to offer, because having a park of this nature is pretty unique to a city. You don't see many municipalities with a park like this. Concerts by the River. This one was established in 2018. We started with 2 concerts. It's held at Louise Hayes Park. We've grown to 5 this year, and we will also have By next year, it's another free event to the community, and we offer a variety of music genres. So we'll have country, we'll have Tejano, we'll have blues and jazz, and just kind of a little bit of everything.
That's 5 free events, just for providing music.
Yes. Yeah. And we have about 400 or so people that have been attending these concerts, and I think it's just going to be something that continues to grow as we progress. This one's new. You might have seen it in your budget as Fall Family Picnic. We're going to move it to the spring. I think it's a little bit kind of cooler time of year. We really had an opening to do an event in the spring, especially with all of our fall events that we're now doing. But this will be another free event for families. They can come out and we will program for them. We'll have pie eating contests, tug of war, sack races, good old fashioned family fun that we'll be offering for the community. And since it's going to be in April, we're also going to be incorporating Earth Day into the event because that's very important to our department and for what we do as well. Mother and Son Date Night, another new event for 2020. It's going to be held Mother's Day weekend. It's going to be very similar to the Daddy-Daughter dance in format. There's going to be a meal, photos, dancing, and it's going to be we're going to start it off at the Dietrich Center, and once it grows, we'll move it to a larger venue, just like we did the Daddy-Daughter dance. Tickets go on sale in March. And this is an event that we created because we heard a lot of positive feedback from the community saying, hey, we love your daddy-daughter dance, but can you please do something for mothers and sons? And we're listening, and so we're offering that. This one is a new one we started in 2018. We started doing promotional days at the Olympic pool. You'll pay admission for most of them, but the amenities that you get will be free. For example, Aquatic Safety Day, we're holding that on Memorial Day. And we'll be doing programming and free information about how to be safe in and around the water. Father's Day, dads get in free with paid child admission. Family swim nights are held after the pool closes. You'll pay a small admission fee, and you can kind of swim, have a program, have dinner, and play at the pool. July 4th, if you come during the designated time frame, you'll get free ice cream. So we're doing a lot of things at the pool to try to create more awareness there as well. Get Outdoors Days, this is an event that we've held for the last couple of years, started in 2014. If you recall, we've kind of moved the times around on this event. We tried it in the morning, didn't really work, tried it in the afternoon, didn't really work, it was too hot. So what we're deciding to do, or what I'm proposing to do, and you'll hear a little bit more about this later, is to actually move this event and combine it with our Riverfest. So we have one event, we have more activities going on, and it's in kind of hopefully in the cooler time of the year. What we've heard from the community is, gosh, it's just so hot to come out in June. Can you move it? So we're listening, and that's what I'm going to propose to do. Our skateboard competition, we established this in 2012. This is another free opportunity to our community. It's one of our smaller events, but the folks that participate in it are very passionate about what they do. And we're excited to be able to offer this opportunity for them. Anyone aged 18 years and under is invited to come out and compete. They have 3 minutes, and they can do their best tricks and their best skit on the skate park and qualify for prizes. And T&S Engraving is one of our big sponsors for this event. The Kids Triathlon has been going on since 1995. It's co-sponsored by Hill Country Bicycle Works. It's a swim, bike, and run event. I know some of you have had children that have participated in this event over the years. We've had 87 last year, which is our largest participation to date. It's a minimal entry fee, and which includes prizes. And of course, it's held in Singing Wind Park, so we utilize the Olympic pool and then the parks surrounding the area. Wet and Wag is held the same day as the Kids Triathlon. It's held at the end of the operating season. That way we have time to sanitize the pool before we go back in it. It started in 2013, and we have grown this event as well. It's one of our smaller events, more intimate, but the people that come, or the pups that come, really seem to enjoy it. We had 42 last summer, which was our highest participation to date. It's sponsored by Dogology, as you can see with that great sponsorship packet that they give us for the dogs. And again, this event is also free to the community. Just have to have your rabies vaccination. Our Movies in the Park series, this started in 2008 as a summer series. You'll see in here in a minute that it has grown We started with 3 events, and we've moved to 6 actually now, and then a few more for our Halloween event. Average attendance is about 250. It's again free admission at Louise Hayes Park and also Kerrville Park. And this series is actually completely covered with sponsorships between the Bosworth Company and the Callow Foundation. Movies in the Park, our Halloween series. Again, this is more feedback we've heard from the community. And also our goal with this one is because we offer 2 major Halloween events, is we wanted to get people excited about Halloween and ramp them up. And they also said, hey, we'd like to do more movies. And we're like, okay, we'll do Halloween movies too. So that's why we're offering this event. And we actually allowed the community to provide input with selecting the movie. All of the movies that were selected this year for all of our series were selected by votes from the community. We had about 250 at each, average at each Halloween movie as well. We offered a new and a free movie at the pool, our dive-in movie. We had about 150 folks participate in this event. So as you can see the setup, we brought our screen, we set it up, we made sure there was adequate lighting so that it was safe. Lifeguards were present. They could see in the water in case they had to make a rescue, but we did make sure it was dark enough to where you could see the screen. So. 4th of July, this event, as you know, is produced by Kerrville's Fourth on the River. It started in 2011. We contract with them to produce this event. And the city is responsible for public safety, closing the roads, providing the fireworks display. It's held July 4th every year in Louise Hayes Park. Most of you attend this event. It's very successful. They're estimating about 8,000 to 10,000 folks came to the event last year. And Mamacitas has been sponsoring this event for the past 10 years for fireworks, and they have committed to annually revisiting the fireworks sponsorships going forward. Absolutely.
I could wait and go back, but will the opening of the Arcadia affect this in the park opportunity?
No, they're actually planning to dovetail each other. As I've heard, they're supposed to be doing an event before the July 4th event opens, or before the July 4th event. That way,
July 3rd.
July 3rd, so it can dovetail with the July 4th
So we'll
event.
still have fireworks in the park?
Yes, pending the weather.
Right.
Kerrville Festival of the Arts, again, not one of our events that we do, but the city does provide support for this event. It's free to the public. It's organized by Kerrville Festival of the Arts organization. They had 128 artists this year, which is also their largest to date. Over 7,000 people estimated attending. And city provides support via hotel motel tax funding, staff, and advertising. And the economic impact, according to the CVB, was $875,000 for this past year's event. It's held Memorial Day weekend every year. The Kerrville Triathlon Festival, which was held just a few weeks ago, it's also produced by High Five Events. It's held the last September of each year. It utilizes the Guadalupe River, the Kerrville River Trail, Louise Hayes Park, and the surrounding streets and roads. It consists of 3 races, and the city also supports this similar to the prior to with hot funding and staff and logistics. 17 states were represented in 2019. And it also had a total participant of 1,726, which was their largest participation to date. And the economic impact, according to the CVB, was 1.2 to 1.4 million, which is rather large for our community. Kerrville Chalk Festival. This event is produced by the Callow Foundation. It was held in last month in Peterson Plaza. Estimated 10,000 people in attendance. They had 68 artists, and the benefactor for this event was Our Lady of the Hills with 45,000. And we have not received the economic impact of this event yet from the CVB, but we can provide that update later once we receive that information. The Kerrville River Roaster was new for us this year. We tried it last year, but we were rained out, so we consider it new this year. It was very successful for a new event. It was a car show held in Louise Hayes Park. We had over 90 cars show up, and you never know what kind of participation you're going to get at an event like this because car shows are a little bit different. They don't like to register in advance. It's kind of a, we open it up and hopefully we have good attendance, and we did. We had live music and food vendors as well, and we're going to be planning for it for 2020 and August 29th. Also, free to attend as a car and free to attend as the public. Okay, Haunted Ghoul Pool was held last month at the Olympic Pool, and I would like to give our Parks and Recreation specialist some props for this event. Rosa Ledesma did a fantastic job, and it was her idea and really went all out. And I know I saw at least Councilmember Clarkson there. I'm sorry if I scared you. I was Ghostface.
I learned a lot about where you want to be in the group when these things happen. I screamed a few times, and my child wanted to run right out of there. So y'all did a great job. It was really good.
So this event was $5 an entry, and we allowed the participants to get a wristband if they wanted to go back through. We would allow them to do that, and a lot of people had fun doing that. So great, successful first year event for that. Our last Halloween event is actually held on Halloween as our Family Fright Night. We started this one in 2014, and we held it originally at Kerrville Shriner Park. But this event, we moved it in 2017 to Louise Hayes Park to accommodate for more guests and to have a larger venue, and to really expand and enhance the event. We had a little over 40 booths, which were sponsors and members of the community coming out and handing out candy and providing games for the children. We had roughly 3,000 or so people in attendance. Again, it's free to participate, free to come. It's held on Halloween, and since next year it's going to be held on a Saturday, we're also going to follow that up with a movie in the park as well. And this event is coming up this weekend. And most of you are participating in the parade, so thank you in advance for that. The holiday parade was established in 2003. It was a Main Street event, and then came over to Parks and Recreation a couple of years ago. It's a very successful parade. There's thousands of folks that line the streets of Kerrville, and it's held downtown, of course, by the Star, and we're expecting roughly between 80 to 90 entries this year.
Could I ask who all's in the parade?
What?
Are you in the parade, Gary?
Yes,
sure.
yes.
I didn't, I guess I should, huh?
Yes, you should.
Is it too late?
It's not too
It's
late.
not too late.
All righty.
Is that your commitment?
Yes, sir, that's my commitment, thank you.
Okay.
I
Thank
forgot
you for
about
that.
it, actually, I'm sorry.
Okay. So it'll be held Saturday at 6 o'clock in downtown Kerrville. Our next one that we're working on as well is our Light the Island project. And our goal on this one is supposed to be a phased project, so keep that in mind. It's not going to happen this year. It's going to take a while. But to reasonably light the trees, the cypress trees within Tranquility Island from bridge to bridge, to give a Christmas effect and experience to the community. It's not an event per se, but it'll be an experience. It'll be up and lit for about a month or so between the lighted parade and the end of Christmas. So we're actually starting that this year. We're doing a combination of wrapped lights. We'll have about 7 or 8 trees that'll be wrapped with traditional Christmas lighting from the trunk, and then we'll be doing alternating uplighting with Christmas colors. So that'll be turned on the night of the parade. Okay, our Kerrville River Festival event, our first year, was held this year. As you all know, you're all in the picture, you're all there. So thank you for supporting that event. It was held, of course, at December 7th at Louise Hayes Park. You all know this is free to the community as well. We had Art Crow. It was a celebration of Kerrville's 130th anniversary or birthday. We had about 1,500 or so folks attend. Let's see, we had a promoter agreement for this event. Because of the nature of the size, we wanted to make sure it was done correctly. For the scope of the event, so we contracted this event out, but staff was very involved with the process for logistics. So for this event, we spent a total of $57,000. We had in-kind sponsorship come in about $13,000. This is on one of your slides as well. And we had cash sponsorships of $12,000 that came in. So roughly, we spent about $43,000 for this event, a net. Okay, for next year's event, I'm proposing the date of October 17th for a couple of different reasons. Number one, the community feedback was a desire to have this event during the cooler months of the year. And October was a great month for this.
It was hot.
Yes, it was hot. This gives us more planning time. If we were looking to do this in the spring, we should have started this probably about a year ago. So this gives us a little bit more time to secure the bands because they're already starting to get booked up for their next year's tour schedule. We would also coincide this with the weekend of the Chalk Festival, which will be held the same weekend. They moved their event back after we announced our date. They moved their event back one weekend to be held the same weekend, so we can capture that audience. Once their event's over, we can encourage people to come, go to the Chalk Festival during the day, and then at night we'll have the concert there as an opportunity for you as well. So we can co-market that event. There's available hotel rooms that weekend, and then it also starts getting dark around 7:30, 7:45-ish, so for the concert, so that'll be great. And we picked this weekend as well to avoid, obviously, the other major events in town besides the Chalk Festival and the Kerrville Triathlon. We didn't want to compete with Austin City Limits because that's huge. There's a mountain bike festival that's going to be moving from Camp Eagle to Kerrville Shriner Park, which we're looking to host in either October or September. We're trying to finalize a date, but that's going to be another great enhancement to Kerrville, and it's going to bring an economic impact as well. I'm also proposing again this year free admission, and to also, like I mentioned earlier in the presentation, merging the Get Outdoors Day activities and include that into Riverfest. So it's really more of a little bit more to do for the families. We can have more kids activities as folks are going to the concert that have children. There's something for them to do. There's more activities at the event. So considerations, if we were to do a similar event as we did for 2019, not considering that we would get cash sponsors, we would need a minimum of at least $60,000 budget to be able to put on this type of event. Obviously, if we get in-kind sponsors again and cash sponsorships, that can offset the expense of the event. But to be able to do what we did this year, this is what we're looking at. I also wanted to ask if it's the desire of the council to do fireworks again, because we did that this year. It was successful, but
Great.
I heard, I had two left, but we had a dog let out.
I would say yes, if we can afford it.
I like fireworks.
we spent $5,000 this year on fireworks, and it was a great show. So.
I love, they came fast and they were just done wonderful.
Was it
Yes.
like 9:30 though, right?
Same time as July 4th.
Sorry. No, I didn't stay awake till 9:30.
We did it as an add-on this year because it was the 130th, and so it was a little bit of a later add-on that we wanted to make it something special, a little bit of a surprise for the community, but if it's y'all's desire, we certainly can look at it, go forward.
We can afford it, I agree too.
Ashley, I've got several questions, but one of them is related to River Festival. If you did merge Get Outdoors Day and the Kerrville River Festival, you talking about that as becoming the Kerrville, that's, so Get Outdoors Day is merged with River Festival. If that's the same time as the Chalk Festival, is that a conflict in terms of kids, going to one and the other?
I don't think so. I think they're both very different. I think that there's enough to do where the Chalk Festival, you can come and walk around, look at the art. That event's not designed for folks to stay for a long period of time.
Yeah.
It's designed for people to come and look at the experience, walk around, and then they can be able to move on to the park, or vice versa, then go back and forth. And so close proximity to each other as well.
Okay. A question I have for you, I think there are like 21 events in here, and then several of them have multiple dates. You're looking at about 42 events, it's probably more than that, but do you have the staff to pull it off?
We do.
Okay.
We've added
Yeah, we've added staff
staff in
this
the last
year.
2 years.
2019, we added a tourism coordinator, and then we'll be adding another position once we fill that as well. But right now, I'm comfortable with our capacity with what we're offering.
Okay. All right, one more, and then I may come back to something else, but have you had a Shriner intern with Parks and Recreation before?
Yes, sir.
I would think somebody's interested in Parks and Recreation, and somebody's interested in event planning, it'd be a great educational opportunity for them and, you know, more hands on deck for you.
Absolutely. We had an intern last year, and they helped us with a variety of projects throughout our department. So there's definitely value in it.
Hiring some.
That's one of the 5? Yeah, I knew we hired 5 in the summer, but I didn't know where all they were. Okay. Other questions or comments for Ashley?
These
Another
are my,
question was, do you
it's
have
always
enough
important
staff?
meeting, just phenomenal job.
Mm.
I mean, it's amazing to me to see what you guys are doing. And I think what I like is when I'm at these events, the ones that I participate in, I'll try to go up and talk to your staff, and they are the happiest.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got a great personality and a great attitude toward their job, so that speaks highly.
Love hearing that. One thing to add too is we did do a Facebook poll recently in the last week or so, asking the community the genre of music, and what we've kind of heard back is the Texas country, the red dirt type music. So that looks like it'll probably be our theme for the next year's event.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Your economic impact stats that you have for the various, could you tell me what that includes? I assume hotels, but how do you gather that information, or can you briefly tell me a little
Sure.
bit more about that?
Sure, those are provided from the CVB, from Charlie McElvain.
Okay.
They run a formula based on hotel nights, so, you know, food, sales tax, all of the lodging, everything that gets impacted when somebody comes into the community. You know, they're filling up their tanks of gas, they're staying in hotels, or eating out.
So he has a formula.
He does.
I guess with attendance, you can plug in, length of time and number of people, and that's how, I'll talk to Charlie about it. I wasn't sure if you were using that or not.
Yes,
Okay,
that's what we use.
okay, thank you.
I'd be interested in, I heard it again just recently. We were in the Kayla meeting and I raised the issue about, you know, what were they doing? What would they like to see in the community of these youth? And you get the same thing that I get on my mayor Facebook page is there's nothing to do in Kerrville. And one time I went to CVB and looked at y'all's events, everything else, listed just a whole list. But what I'm puzzled by is, and I know that I'm bored and I don't, you know, there's nothing to do. I realize that's pretty universal. But I'm trying to figure out what do they want? And we got a little input the other day at the Kayla meeting, but,
What input did you get?
huh?
What input did you get?
Well, it was kind of interesting. Some people are saying, we just like to go to a restaurant or a coffee shop and hang out with our friends. And then somebody else said, I like where you can go and there are things to do. He loves Carver Park. And so he's a basketball player and, you know, and so that kind of thing. But, anything else that stands out, Kim?
Well, you know, I wasn't at the meeting, so I'm not
Yeah.
sure exactly what they said.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Yeah, right,
Well, and
okay.
also, I asked Austin that question too, because you hear that, and you know, he teaches high school kids, and he said, they just want to hang out.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, they just, he's like, I don't know what you would be able to do. And I've also heard, and I've spoken to Mark a little bit about it, I've also heard from parents of toddlers, and I don't know if you've ever, what was being asked of me at that time was really more about like a longer term, like programming, like a music class that would extend for a period of time, and I don't know if there's anything that you've ever seen or anything like that you know, could be looked into. I couldn't when I try to do my own searching. I don't know if you've seen or anything specifically designated for just those little toddlers, the young, like preschool toddlers, you know. And I'm just asking because I haven't been able to find anything, but I was asked that question and I didn't have an answer for it as far as what I could find on my own.
Yeah, I know Club Ed does a lot of structured programming. I don't know if they venture down to the preschool or youth age. I have to look into that.
It's a good resource. I'll check that.
I would just say in the process of what you're doing, if you come up with ideas, you know, there wouldn't necessarily be the Parks and Recreation Department doing it, but you say, you know, we're seeing a real interest in this, we can't do it because of this, that, or the other, but anyway,
Yeah. And that could be a
potential
library
to
type too.
explore it. But I echo Gary's words, you're doing a great job, and,
It's amazing.
Very impressive.
yeah.
And that's, one of my questions was, do you have enough staff? Because all the things that you're doing, that's a lot of work.
It is, and that's something that, you know, we've evaluated, and I've tried to make sure that I don't put too much in our department, that we can't bite off more than we can chew. And at this point, I'm fairly comfortable, with what we're doing. Now, if we were to add to that, might start to squeal a little bit, but, I think we're very comfortable with what we have right now for our staffing.
That's great.
You'll recall also that this year we added back the assistant director position that was not filled when Ashley was promoted. And so that will help her also with just the whole leadership. And of course, she's taking on golf as well, right? So they're recruiting for that position now.
How is the golf transition working out?
It's going good. We're in the very initial phases of that, so there's gonna be more to come, but it's a slow transition. That's really all I can say at this point. There'll be a lot of learning and going forward.
We're strategically waiting till the winter season when it's a little slower so we can, let's ramp it up going into the spring.
Yeah, there are no strong feelings about golf, so, it's an easy one. Okay, one more just comment on the Light the Island project. Gary and Kim will remember this, Kim may not. But when we moved here, Tranquility Island was just wilderness. And right after it was announced that this group was gonna try to clear it and use it as part of Louis Hayes Park, I was at the home of the late, Kerrville Snodgrass, who was the historian of this area and so forth. And she and her friends, they were lamenting, you can't do anything with Tranquility Island. You can't do anything there, it's just a wilderness. They say anything you put there will get washed away. But looks like it's worked. So,
And I'll even fess up, when that project came on, I thought they've lost their mind, that's the biggest waste of money ever.
you did?
I was one of the, anti-guys. I mean, one, you couldn't even get to it at that point in time.
Yeah.
There wasn't even an access bridge to it at that point in time. But it's been a huge transition, and I'm glad people have more vision than I do.
Community enjoys it. We have folks that'll rent it out for weddings, and people will go down there. I'll see on Facebook and social media, families posting their family pictures. They'll go out in the park, and it's just neat to see that they're utilizing our amenities for that purpose and creating those memories. So, good stuff.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Exhausted, to clear all that.
Yeah.
It makes me tired.
I feel like I need to
All right.
get out more.
Let's move to the drainage master plan. And,
Yeah, you wanna introduce this?
is EA gonna introduce this?
Yes, just briefly, I'll introduce this item and have Public Works Director Stuart Barron come up and introduce our two consultants. As you recall, this has been an effort that we've been undergoing over the last year. Council budgeted for us last fiscal year to move through this master plan process. As you may recall, Kerrville's never had a stormwater master plan. This is really the first one. It's in parallel, really, with our streets program. A big effort, part of this effort, as you recall, is trying to get water off of our streets, but then also recognizing certain low water crossings and other areas across the community that, it doesn't always rain here, and a lot of times we don't have rain for months and months and months, but then we have it, and it all comes at once. And so sometimes it's just an inconvenience, and sometimes there's some dangers about property damage and health, safety, welfare. And so we launched off on this effort. LMV's done a good job for us. We presented to you some initial findings in the summer time frame. We came back to you in the October time frame as we were honing in on certificates of obligation funding and streets funding, kind of where that was calibrating at. We've had a little bit of further refinement over the last 6 weeks, and so we wanted to bring LMV back in to talk about specific projects as they've kind of honed in from that 30,000 foot level to maybe the 25,000 foot level, still recognizing this is a very high level study. There's no preliminary engineering that's been done, and so there will be further refinement as we dig into specific projects, but we did want to give them an opportunity to talk about some of the calibration they've done as they've gone through the QA/QC process. Stuart, you have anything further you wanna brief on there? Okay, very good. We've got Mr. Abe Salinas and then Derek Nizer from LNV to further brief the city council.
Good morning. So my name is A.B. Salinas, and Derek Nizer is over here, one of our principals in the office. And last time we spoke and met was in the summer of this year, and we talked about kind of the draft plan and where we were, presented some of the concepts and rankings and so forth. Since that time, we've had the opportunity to kind of reevaluate some of the project solutions that we had and maybe found some opportunities where we could maybe more efficiently design it and reduce some costs. At the same time, we also looked at the constructability of some of the other more complex projects and tried to see, was that price right? And then maybe adjust the price up or down depending on what new factors we discovered. Like Mr. Coffey was saying, as we move forward, this is more of a 30,000 foot in the air kind of concept level. And we did not do any sort of detailed hydrology and hydraulics and surveying and all the things that go with it. But we try to provide a conceptual solution and a cost that fits within a good amount of accuracy to allow you to move forward with budgeting and implementing those projects. So with that said, we looked at some projects and we found opportunities to reduce costs. We found other projects where we kind of reevaluated based on constructability and the easements that was available. We looked at the unit prices and we made sure that those were as close to kind of what we're seeing in the market right now. That's kind of a fluid thing that's always changing. And then again, really what we're doing is we're trying to improve the accuracy of this deliverable. And before we finalize it and stamp it and seal it and everything and it goes on a shelf, we want to make sure you all have the best product possible to make decisions in the future. So that's what this reflects. What we have here is just an overall big picture snapshot of all the projects that we've been talking about, and then where those prices have changed since our draft. Some of them, as you'll see, have gone up, other ones have gone down, and some of them have stayed about the same. The ones that we're going to spend the time today talking about are the ones that have gone up in price and kind of explain a little bit about why that process would happen. And then we'll also talk about the last three, the low water crossings, and why we kind of retooled that approach. This is just an overview of generally where the projects are, where they fall in the city. If you have any questions about specifically where this is or where a project might be, just let me know and I'll point you in that direction. So the first project that we wanted to talk about where we saw some price changes was a Take It Easy drainage channel along with the Lower Street. That's something that we're looking at with moving forward in capital improvements. And of course, as you go into the design and the surveying, you're going to discover new things and new opportunities to potentially reduce costs. But what we understand is some of the key issues with this problem area is that on the, let me use this cursor here. Oh, there it is, okay. So here, between Guadalupe and Junction Highway, if you've been through there, you've kind of seen it. There's some really steep, erosive channel banks and maybe about 20 feet high. And then we have about a 12-foot bottom. There's certain complexities with the constructability of that and being able to navigate machinery into it and build it, as well as we didn't want to propose 20-foot walls. That's kind of also a very expensive endeavor. So we kind of found an opportunity to provide some box culverts in this area. That's the pink. And so what we're proposing is a 12-foot wide by 6-foot deep box that will kind of sit generally about where the existing channel bottom is. That will reduce the amount of wall or I guess that geometry, and I think it would be a more effective solution. And then as we move into the yellow, that's where we're talking about maybe having a kind of more of a rectangular concrete section. I think originally we were talking about a trapezoidal, so it would have sloping sidewalls, but we think based off of the constraints that we have, we need to be more vertical. So there's opportunities there to do some interesting things. You can have some block walls that kind of look like maybe like this limestone over here, or you can do some traditional retaining wall or so forth. But as you get into the design, you'll have those opportunities to kind of figure out what those are. So based off of that, we kind of retooled it, and we think that that cost is somewhere around 1.8 to 2.5. We don't know because we don't have all the information, but that's, I think, within striking distance, kind of what you have budgeted. We think it's still something you can move forward with, but just knowing that there's kind of still, this is still high level type of estimating that we're doing here.
We're also gonna be working with the property owner. As you recall, this is a unique situation where there is one property owner on both sides of this channel area, although there are a number of renters, also, along that. Some of those structures are pretty close, and so, you know, we'll be working very closely with the property owner. It's in their best interest, obviously, for this situation to get corrected. We may need some additional right-of-way acquisition, hopefully donations, you know, and then certainly the actual construction process itself, we want to be as least disruptive as possible, but recognizing that we've got pretty tight space to work in. So we'll be looking for value engineering opportunities every avenue that we have.
So the box culverts that are downstream, there's no issue there with capacity since it's not open channel?
Well, so the box culverts will still, there's still gonna be opportunity for, in a huge event, let's say a 50-year or 100-year, if you can imagine, you'll have the 25-year flow, say, going in the box culverts, but we still have, remember that 20-foot sloping embankment? There, we're proposing to have more of a, filling in the top of the boxes, so you have kind of a trapezoidal section. And so if you have a big event, that overflow would continue above the pipe system. So you still have that capacity in terms of the large storm events, but,
Oh, I see.
okay.
So just again, trying to get my head around it. So the box culvert's gonna set, you're gonna side fill and then clean the channel on top of it?
Yeah. And I wish I had a whiteboard, I would love to draw it. But, okay, so let's think of, this is the box culvert in the channel, we're sitting it on top. And then we're gonna come in, cause you saw these vertical embankments on each side of the creek. We wanna fill that in some, so that we bring those to a more stable and safe slope. And that'll kind of have this trapezoidal section, so as water stays within the box, it'll stay into the box, and at some point on large storm events, it'll exceed it. And then we want it to be able to have kind of an emergency spillway, so to speak, of where it can go when those big events happen. Is that kind of?
Make it like that, you're not taking away capacity, are you?
Well, I think we have, I think the depth and the width that we have available based on the flows that you're receiving should accommodate the 100-year for that big event. You know, the other kind of limiting constraint is what we can do with the TxDOT culvert. So TxDOT traditionally is only interested in, and I would say maybe doing up to the 25-year storm event. So anything above that would be kind of overtopping flow on junction. And, but the point being is that we want to find a nice balanced solution that reduces risk effectively. And so I think that's where we are right now. And I think that this does a good job of that.
So basically, if TxDOT allows a 25-year event, that's gonna be the cork at the top of the hose, basically.
Well, and that, yeah,
So
at that point,
there's no reason to build a 500-year culvert down below where we've got a 25-year flood event cork, basically.
and I think that's,
Flow.
and I think one of the things that's happening is trying to have a conversation, a dialogue with TxDOT and seeing what can be worked out with them. And so there may be opportunities where they are interested in providing a larger sized culvert, but we didn't want to take that leap of faith quite yet.
Yeah,
We don't know. And so that's what we're looking at right now.
I had several conversations with TxDOT, trying to get them to participate in the project.
Doctor, that's exactly what's happening right now, that's acting like the cork up there on the top, and it just meters out the 25-year event, everything else backs up on the lowest, and that's why lowest is stacking up. That culvert right now is a big reducing factor and the smallest factor, the big problem. We wouldn't want to oversize downstream, so in case they ever do fix that culvert, we can handle it without doing anything.
What are the chances
tough.
that
I mean,
they're
we spend-
participating now?
I don't want to.
We're still talking to them about
Still
that.
talking. Okay.
We've had at least a couple meetings with them already.
So you'll be fairly clear on what they'll be willing to do by the time the project
Be
gets
part of the
underway.
design.
And I think one of the things we'll be asking TxDOT is, I think there's a lot of benefit to trying to lower where those culverts are right now, lowering them down so that we can further channelize the area that's in the blue.
That's what I was gonna ask about the blue.
And so another thing that we kind of had to change in our estimate was that since we started into today, there's a new development that's gone up in this lot right here. And so we thought we had a little bit more space of maybe building a trapezoidal channel, but probably where this development is, we're gonna have to add a portion of wall in there, so we added that cost in there. We also wanted to protect that great tree that's around there, so just kind of going through those refinements.
So more to come on that one, but we feel like we're still within striking distance.
That's right. Okay, if it's all right, I'll move on to Pinto Trail. That's another project where, we had an increase to the cost. And, our understanding of kind of the issues with this project area is that flow comes down the street on Tomahawk and Pinto. And it goes into an existing channel that makes this 90-degree turn, and then it goes down, towards East Main Street. Part of that problem is that there's some erosive velocities that have since kind of scoured out that riprap channel, and there's kind of some deep erosion that's happening. But in addition to that, as the flow makes its way down over to where my mouse is on the screen here, we understand that flow also has a tendency to overtop at times and place these residences at risk of some flooding. So we felt like we really wanted to provide about 100-year flood frequency storm event protection. Now, the other challenge that we had when we worked through the solutions was the availability of easement to work with. So I think there's more easement, but there's actually more constraining factors that I think are the controlling. So there's fence lines. If you look at these three houses here, there's fences that come pretty close to where the channel is now. And then we've got utility poles and some other services that are in this area. So we wanted to be respectful of that and kind of work with a geometry that was not going to disturb a lot of these backyards. And so we again kind of tapered it down to a more of a rectangular section, maybe a block wall, retaining wall, or something of that nature. So those changes are reflected in this estimate. And then we kind of refined how we looked at the downstream improvements. So if we're really improving the conveyance of this channel, there's the possibility that we have some adverse impacts as the flow moves down. And so we just wanted to make sure that we had adequate capacity now that we're really effectively channelizing the flow.
This area is, it's about to be under development. Are we getting the easements that we need as part of that?
Yeah, we're gonna be coordinating, with development services already teed up to make sure that we're handling it.
Is that where we're proposing the change from that 90-degree to the plus curve? Is that owned by the development?
So that corner is actually already owned by the city. We just wanna make sure that,
Okay, we own that lot then.
that's correct, it's my
Okay.
understanding.
Okay. That's interesting.
Now, where is this in relation to, what is this behind?
That's where that new development's going in.
Used to be home opportunity.
It's behind West End Home Place?
Remember the name of those
That's
roads,
correct.
but- Where does this, at the downstream end of this, where does that terminate into? Is that First Creek or
Shriner University, and it goes all the way from Shriner down to Finland Creek.
down to which creek?
Quinlan.
Is that Quinlan? Okay. So that's, it basically dumps into Quinlan Creek right there.
It's right there north of Broadway or Water
Yeah.
Drive.
And this is actually campus right here.
Yeah, no, I've got that. I just couldn't figure out what was,
Where it goes after?
Yes, sir.
where it
Yeah, Quinlan Creek kind of makes a little turn right through there. And then,
jumps right into that creek. Okay.
okay,
Okay, we'll move on to the next project. This is Jack Drive. For this area, the key problem is that there's runoff that travels to where that red line is. And flow makes its way across the driveways of these residences, and then it makes its way through the neighborhood. And so the only way to really solve this is we need to put a storm drain system or a channel, some sort of conveyance. And once we start that, if we capture it, say the first block, well, we need to take it to the next block and the next block till we find the next place we can discharge to, and that's not until we get to kind of near the Walmart where that orange area is. We're trying to work within some of the existing easements that are out there. One of the things that we kind of did in our constructability review and quality control is looking at something we maybe hadn't really considered, but all the amount of utility adjustments that we may have to do. We don't really know where those utilities are, but we wanted to make sure we kind of accommodated that cost in there. The other thing that we wanted to do is kind of respect the neighborhood and what's happening out there. So we go out and we put in some pipes and we excavate. That's pretty intrusive, and we'll have to be removing a lot of fences, potentially a lot of trees, whatever patios or structures that come near this pipe may be disturbed. So we thought some areas it would be more beneficial to do a jack and boring or a tunneling to minimize those disturbances, protect those trees, and protect those structures. So
I know who lives in that house.
Councilman Clarkson says she's glad to donate that green section.
That runs through the center of my home.
That's her house, by the way.
which one?
Where the green section is?
we'll be working very closely.
Yeah,
with
that's
the
her
property
house.
owners.
Okay. Well, I think that's one of the areas where we talked about tunneling.
I'm in favor of blasting in that area.
It's a very conceptual drawing right now.
We can price that out.
Welcome to the neighborhood, Kim.
So, and certainly, if, that's your house, if you live there, then you live it, you breathe it, you know it. And if there's something you're seeing that we are missing, please let us know, and we can certainly, revisit the drawing board.
Our yard, yeah, we're the last part of
What
the
is-
downward cycle until it gets to
What's the
culvert,
yellow
our yard
checked line? I can't.
floods.
Okay, yes. The yellow is intended to be an existing easement that's out there. I think it's a drainage and utility easement. So the green represents what would be a new easement. We don't want to jog it around 90 degrees and we want to take a direct path.
That existing drainage easement is well overgrown and very difficult property. I think it's a 5-foot wide drainage easement. And, so it doesn't convey much water, and the property owners don't like us to trim the trees, so they're trying to give them privacy between each other. And so it confines everything, and I think it's possible in the midst of the water runs across that whole area down there. It's difficult, we've got to find a way to get it across to that lower section. There are solutions of making
90-degree turns in the past on a lot of these just doesn't work good for storm water. Yep, water likes to flow straight.
That's what it was.
And it also adds the expense of additional junction boxes. So each of those bends, we have to put a structure in to accommodate that change in direction. Those are pretty costly. Any other questions on this one?
No, I can see why that one would be.
We don't go under houses, don't worry.
It looks like going right through the middle.
Got a real estate agent
All right.
right here if you're.
This is Coronado Junction.
I was trying to figure it out.
Now, this price went up, but only by a little bit. And the reason we're talking about it is because the project is relatively small. Any little change is gonna be very price sensitive. One of the things that we had in our conversations of constructability was, what is TxDOT gonna allow for us to do underneath that roadway? They're not gonna be very receptive to open cutting that road and disrupting traffic. So what we see is traditionally with this type of crossing, they're gonna wanna tunnel underneath of it, jack and bore or something like that. So we revised our estimates to reflect that. And I do want to touch on one last thing. So a lot of things that we're talking about here on the bottom, you see the cost benefit and we say the 25-year. And that's just kind of, we're trying to balance cost and risk. And it's not to say that when we get into design, that we can make this a 100-year. That's quite possible. We just, at this point, don't know kind of all the things that may be involved with that. All right, the next one is Spring Street. This is where there's an existing outfall with some gabion mattress baskets. I don't know if you've seen them, but they're basically a rock-filled cage, and they go down into the river. And over time, the bank has eroded a little bit underneath those mattresses, and when that happens, these mattresses are very flexible and they kind of just fall on themselves. And so this has kind of been eroding because of that. And so what we want to do is just build a more long-term and stable structure. So what we're proposing is it's a concrete chute that would go down into the river, and then we provide some energy dissipation before it enters. We think we also can build up back some of this slope that's eroded just because of these baskets that have fallen. I think once we do that, we'll pretty much have a stable outfall, and I understand that some of the geotech investigations have shown that there's some rock in this area, so we don't see a lot of further erosion potential, but you know, it's going to continue, I think, to kind of head cut a little bit in this direction and migrate if it's just not taken care of. The other thing that we proposed was extending the pipe out further towards the bank. And we felt like you can do this for the benefit of just trying to create a more usable space in this area so that there's just not this big dividing channel if it doesn't have to be there. Again, in final design, you may decide that that channel is where you want it and that's how you want it to be, and that's fine. We can work through that during the design, but this is just a concept of what that might be.
Mark, does this project have any impact on the Spring Hill?
No, where you see the green starting there, the shaded green is where the driveway comes out from where the hotel is. So this is basically a future project that can be done regardless of what happens with the hotel. Now, just as this is a good time to point out that none of these are funded except for the first two.
I know. Yeah.
So these are longer term as we can get the resources to do it.
So the other area that I wanted to touch on was the low water crossings. Those are Park, 1st, and 4th Streets. These are on Quinlan. And it is our understanding that, you know, there's very small pipes that go across these roadways and they overtop very frequently. The other thing to consider is that we have not only a floodplain, but we have a floodway. And so by FEMA's regulations, we have to have a 0.0 rise in the water surface if we do any improvements. So when we start talking about raising the road to fit some larger boxes underneath it, you're going to raise the water surface upstream, and you're also potentially going to improve the amount of flow that goes downstream. So you have to balance those things, and when we do that, that means we have to go do a bunch of channel improvements. That's what's represented in the yellow. And so we think we would probably have to go out there, do some excavation, do some work to improve the conveyance, bring it down to a 0.0 that we're targeting. When we start doing that and you start looking at the costs, I mean, we start looking at, you know, a few $1 million to do, at best, a 5-year storm event protection level. So you're not even getting that 100-year for the $1 million, $2 million that you're spending or whatever it may be. So we kind of went back to the drawing board and we said, well, you know, that's just not really providing, I think, the intention, the cost benefit that needs to be happening for this project to occur. And so we looked at these low water crossings or automatic floodgates. So you would install a gate on each side, and during these high frequency or high storm events, these gates could either automatically come down or you can have some sort of system that may depend on what it is. But the ultimate intention here is to improve public safety. So if there's a big storm event, you have a lot of overtopping flows, and as it gets a foot deep or deeper, that has a huge potential for cars to get washed away, and so we just want to protect that. So we just kind of touched on the ones that changed. If there was something else that you wanted to talk about, please ask, and I'm happy to go over that. But otherwise, the intention here was to just communicate these changes, because I know you had seen some other estimates before. We wanted to make sure that you understand what we're proposing, that incorporate any suggestions that you may have, and of course, the ultimate goal of this plan and what we want to provide you guys with is a good roadmap on what you guys need to be doing and how much those are going to cost. So as you move forward over the years, you have something, a great document to work off of. And so that's what we're here to do. And so hopefully we can incorporate these changes and finalize the report and get it adopted. So
I've got one question.
I can put it to you.
If you go back to the, I guess, page 2 or 3, the project change summary, you talked about why Take It Easy is gonna go from 1.1 to 2.2. But explain to me why Woodlawn now, or the lowest street, is going from 750 to 187. That's a pretty significant
yeah.
reduction.
Right, so we that one we refined our approach. So what we were thinking initially was up here on this yellow area that you can see up on where Lois is. We were initially looking at doing a lot more extensive reprofiling of that road. And so with that work, we were talking about full depth pavement replacements. It was pretty costly. We didn't feel like that was really the best bang for the buck. So we did reduce those costs. And then originally we were proposing, I think, like a retaining wall and concrete bottom the entire way. But we're trying to use a more of a natural section in that area that provided some good savings as well. So those are some of the big changes that we were looking at. And then in our conversations on the text dot culvert, trying to figure that out as well.
This is a little bit tedious, but I want to ask you of just kind of the major things that you have suggested. I've gone through its box culvert, rectangular channel, lower culvert, trapezoidal channel, downstream improvement, capacity improvements, storm drain, concrete chute, embankment fill, channel bank stabilization, overtopping, and floodgates. Now, in light of that, and I'm sure the staff has got a handle on this, but help us as a council. In planning forward, when projects come before us, in light of what we're having to go back and do with all of these, what do we need to be aware of? What do we need to look for? What do we need to make sure is there?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, let's see if I effectively answer your question. But this is, what we present now is kind of this high level estimate and what it's going to take. What we need to be thinking about, some of the smaller projects that are, let's just say, we'll call them $1 million and less. Those may be less complex, and you probably have good enough information to move forward towards maybe straight to design. The higher budgeted projects, let's say like the Croc Center, detention, and the Clay Street, that's like an $8 or $9 million project, I think. Or I think maybe we have it at 7.8 right now. But those are big numbers. And there's possibly other solutions that are out there that may provide more bang for your buck. And so I think thinking about on those big ones is maybe doing some sort of what we call a preliminary engineering evaluation. So we'll go out there and do some additional surveying work, more detailed hydrology and hydraulics to get some, really hone in on what you need and come up with some more effective costs that really respond to what's out there. Stuart, anything else?
I think I can add, I think if you're asking when a developer comes and talks to somebody at council, what, can I look at a set of drawings and really get a quick feel? Does the water are they taking the water all the way to a receiving stream? Right? If they're dumping it in the street, that ought to raise a red flag. Hey, where's the stormwater going? Are you dumping it onto a neighboring piece of property? That ought to be a red flag. And, you know, all the details, like A.B. was saying, we'll work through those details. But if a developer's saying, hey, we're taking it all the way to the receiving stream, you're probably in pretty good shape. If they're dumping it 3 neighborhoods over, they need to be concerned about that and kind of looking for it. How's the stormwater gonna get out of the property?
Okay.
Remember too, that this is working in parallel to the revisions that we're making, both within the subdivision ordinance as well as our city specs. And so in both of those efforts, we're tightening up the elements of the design standards that the development community has to do for new development. So this is really about going in and fixing a lot of drainage issues that have occurred over decades and centuries, really, and correcting some of those, whereas those other efforts will help us going forward with new development.
Yeah, good,
Yeah.
thank you.
I think that's exactly, the big thing that I would take away from this report is not just the roadmap for projects that you need to do to fix things kind of today, but thinking about the future, and as development comes in, the complexity of fixing things or the cost of fixing things just becomes more and more sensitive. And so having effective criteria and design guidelines for your future developments is, I think, a big thing to move forward and to be thinking about. And that's part of what we looked at in the plan, was providing some recommendations to those criteria. And so I think the next conversation will be what things do we want to look at, implement, and adopt, just to, I think, protect the city long-term.
So the next step is December 10th, is that right? Coming back with, this as an action item to adopt the plan, and then also an engineering contract to begin with highest priority projects, which is lowest and take it easy drainage.
Just as a funding question, so we approved the $10 million bond issue. And that was basically broken out, 8 for streets and 2 for drainage. And now we're at 2.5 for drainage. So
Yeah,
do we,
EA and I had that conversation this morning,
do
so.
we reallocate, or what do we do?
Yeah, so as we're going through that engineering process, we'll be able to hone in and further refine the exact, again, remember this is a higher level view, and as they kind of get into the hydrology and really looking at it, have further move forward the discussion with TxDOT, find out, you know, what kind of partnership we're gonna have there. We'll be able to hone in on that and calibrate. And recall that the street funding, you know, we've got multiple phases there, so we'll also be honing in on what those costs are actually gonna be, particularly as we're going into the spring. So more to come.
All right, do you want approval today from the council?
No.
December 10th.
All right, okay. Abe and Derek, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
So again, just clarification, Mark, so the next step, the council will be,
To approve the design contract, and they'll get more detail on the numbers, find the numbers. In the meantime, we've got design going on the streets.
will we have a price on what that design contract will be?
Yes, it'll be on the agenda, but I'm not sure what it is yet.
Fine, but it'll be there.
Yes.
Okay. All right, by the way, I should have said this, Abe and Derek, y'all drop a whole bunch of money in Kerrville before you go back, okay? Yeah, we
We're doing
want
the
the
best we
local.
can.
Oh, yeah, all right. Okay,
Art gallery
okay.
industry.
We're through with the business of the workshop? Okay, we are adjourned at 11:14.